I'm going to be recording this to the cloud for anyone who is running late or who may miss this. My name is Kimberly Madden. I'm the Executive Director of the Micro Business Association of New England. And today's session is about protecting your business from cyber threats. And we're joined with Anne-Marie Hurk, who's bringing over 20 years of experience in crisis communications, risk management, operations, and IT to the table. And this enables Anne-Marie to provide big picture understanding to executives and boards. She's worked with organizations of all sizes and sectors. And with that, I'd like to ask Anne-Marie to take it away.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be part of this group. Now, before I begin, let me just ask everybody a question. Do you think the cyber criminals are interested in you? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. They are. About 66% of all small businesses, and that includes micro businesses like us, would shut down or close to close if a hack were to happen. So we're going to talk about three things that are going to help you, three cyber risks that are going to help distill the challenges that you're facing and give you some solutions along the way. We are in a unique position because we are micro businesses, but we still have to be extremely cautious of what we do. Now, who am I? And thanks for the very nice introduction. I have 25 years of business experience in IT, operations, executive management, public relations, marketing. So I've been around the table a little bit. Now, in 2013, I was hacked. Now, you see, I had written the book on social media crisis communications. I had a nationally distributed column on business where I talked about these emerging trends, which included cybersecurity. Now, I thought I was safe. I thought, nobody would want me. Well, apparently somebody did. Now, my website was hacked. That was the same time that I published my book. Also, I lived in a very rural community. So you can imagine how important having your website up and running is in that situation. It was devastating. I was lucky that I knew people at that time that could scrub my website and get it back to me in better shape than I sent it to. But along the way, I started questioning, like, what does this all mean? I wasn't completely satisfied with the answers that people were telling me. So in a way, it set me down this path to where I am now, which is cyber risk and cybersecurity. So here we are. I decided I'm going to sort of like pull away the curtain. It's sort of like Oz. Oz is back there pulling all the strings, and there's the big purple curtain, and everyone is looking at it like, oh my gosh, which is understandable. When people start talking finance or accounting to me, my eyes will glaze over. The same thing happens when you start talking about information system technology, cybersecurity. Everyone sort of glazes over because it is sort of this murky world that has really never been fully explained. So my goal is not only to make it harder for criminals to hack you and get your precious data, but also help you understand what cybersecurity is and then empowering you. So we are going to talk about three major risks. We're going to talk about email passwords, VPN usage, and the importance of updates. Now, I'm going to try to leave as much time as possible for questions, simply because I want this to be very interactive and very beneficial for you. I mean, I am kind of dating my slide deck, but I'm not married to it yet. I could give the ring back if another offer comes along that's better. Okay. So bear with me here. All right. Threats. Now, there are major threats happening right now. And I hate to say it, you are the missing link, the weakest link. I've been practicing that and I end up flubbing it. But anyway, the human element is the weakest link in the chain of security, be it your physical security as well as your digital security. So part of this is understanding, one, that you are the weakest link and that your staff and your vendors could be. Now, we're facing numerous threats. I mean, I could throw statistics at you for the next 30 minutes, or actually the next 5 hours. I have so many of them, but we're not going to touch a lot of statistics because you can go to the Googles for that. But the main threats that you need to really worry about right now is phishing and ransomware, as well as physical security. We really forget that in terms of cybersecurity. I'll just ask one question. Where do people keep your passwords?
Mine's all in memory.
Well, you're smart, you're special, which is good. But how many times have you walked into an office and you have seen sticky notes on desks, on computer screens?
All the time.
All the time. So if you can see them, so can the cyber criminal who wishes to get in there. The same goes for your hard files and so forth when you leave things out. So the major threats are phishing, which comes through email, comes through sites that have been infected, and then ransomware, which is a particularly virulent threat right now. So I'm going to go old school here and deterrence. Your goal is deterrence. It is to make it harder on the bad guys to get in and use you and take your data. Simple as that. If you make it hard on them, they are going to go to somebody else that's easy. They don't want to, waste the time. And a lot of times it's a bot. So it's just all electronic and they're just trolling and trolling. You just want them to move on as quick as possible. Now, I will give you some statistics here. Now, according to the FBI, and this is from the fall, this is from the Northeast FBI office based in Providence. I talked with the agent recently. He was giving a briefing that 94% of the fraud is cyber fraud. So there's been a 94% increase in cyber fraud just in this year alone, just in New England, which is Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Among that, there has been a 250% increase in ransomware. Yes, 250%. That's a big number. And most of it is down to COVID, the pandemic. When large companies, or even small ones, frankly, when lockdowns hit, everyone went remote. And you may have a very secure office environment, but once people leave the office and start working remotely, that goes out the window. You really don't have full control. I mean, they could be using their own devices and etc. So that plays into it. Also, you have the scams out there, the phishing scams through email, wanting to tell you about information about the pandemic, about the checks coming out, and et cetera, stuff that people are really interested in knowing about. So people are clicking by not really paying attention. Excuse me. So the name of the game here is deterrence. Now, one of the major ways that the bad guys get in is through passwords. Now, who would like to guess what is the most common password?
Password?
Yes.
Is that it? It's
Michael, do you have an idea?
I'd say the pet's name.
password.
Me. That would make sense. That would take some social engineering. Do you want to know what the #1 password is, that most common password?
Pass.
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you know what the second most common password is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then another most common password, which I think is extremely interested, is the Portuguese word "seja." That's the 4th most common password. Now, if we can come up with those passwords, so can the cyber criminals. And oftentimes they will do that using social engineering. A lot of it is automated. I think people think that with cybersecurity, there is, some guy in his basement kind of clicking away, trying to guess all of this. Cybersecurity is cybercrime is one of the largest crimes in the world right now. And many of it is now moving over to organized crime or kind of gangs. So a lot of it is it's very commodified. I could go into the dark web right now and literally select options of malware and how to deploy it. Some of them, providers even have customer service for me as the crook to make my malware happen. Of course, they get a cut of it, but still. So we want to make sure that it is really hard to break your passwords. Now, I know we have 50 million passwords. Me too. I mean, we all do. Everything has a password. But and I know I'm probably sounding like a broken record. I probably sound like every other cybersecurity person speaking. But I mean, this is really important. The strength of your password and the frequency with how you change it is really essential. Don't use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's easily thought of. Things that you could be social engineered, particularly if you're like a high profile person, a well-known business person, someone who's in this more of the public sphere. They will actually go into researching you in terms of social engineering, figuring things out from you. So of course, they're going to try your pet's name, your children's name, your anniversary, your birthday, all these little tells that can add up to a hacker that is determined to get access to the vault, essentially, access to your digital safe. And pretty much 91% of all phishing attacks happen through email. Pretty much to say ransom attacks as well. So what you need to do is put, even for yourself, a password policy in place. Complex. I know if you're an Apple user, the OS system will generate secure passwords for you and then save it securely. You can also use a password device, and I'm just totally LastPass. That's the one I use, that stores passwords that are encrypted. And it also will suggest passwords. Or what you can do is develop a system. And I know how it is easy to use similar or the same passwords for everything, because our brains can really only handle so many numbers and combinations. But just think of it, if you have the same password for your email as well as your bank account, and someone cracks your email, they're going to automatically try logging into your banking using that password, because they know most people do. So for important sites such as your email, social media, banking, insurance, anything to do with healthcare, have different passwords. Just develop a system, whatever works for you. So there we go. Now, a lot of us, being micro businesses, are out on the road a lot. You know, we meet where our customers are, which often is not in an office. We may be traveling for clients, and a virtual private network is something I highly recommend if you are ever going to use a public Wi-Fi. It sort of cuts out the middleman, because there's a middleman sitting in the Starbucks looking with a device, scanning to see if they can grab your information, intercept it, get what they need, and pop it back up. And the VPN eliminates that. Also, I suggest using a VPN if you're working on some highly sensitive things at home that you just want to make sure is secure. I would use a VPN. If you have staff that are working from home, or other vendors that are now remote working, you can ask them to use a VPN in order to keep their information secure. I always suggest, and that's having it on your phone as well, not just your laptop or your iPad or your tablet. I would definitely say have it on all of your devices to ensure they're safe. Just totally blanked at what I was going to say. Oh my gosh, where was I going with it? VPN, paid. There are a lot of free VPNs out there. This is the time where you pay for a VPN. I'll send a list out later of reputable VPN providers, paid, as well as password, the list of password providers that you can use to encrypt your passwords and save them securely without having to have the paper. Now this can be a pain. Could be painful, but we'll start with the good stuff first. Updates. It is so important that you keep your operating systems updated. So when that little button comes up for Microsoft that says there's an update, do it. Most likely, it has to do with a security update, that they are actually patching something that they have found a vulnerability. Same thing goes for apps on your phone. update them. If you're no longer using them, delete them. Just simply, if you haven't used an app in 6 months or a year, delete it off your phone, but always keep your apps updated. Now, this was recently a very painful thing for me. I have a lot of electronic devices in my life. And I had to follow my own advice here. If you can no longer update a device, that leaves it open to security issues. So I recently had to get rid of my first iPad, which was generation 1. It was no longer updated. You could no longer do an operating system update. It went to a good home for a computer friends to dissect it. The same thing happened with an iPad mini I had, which I used just for reading. It was no longer updatable. So it may be painful, and we're all probably lining the pockets of major corporations, but in order to ensure the safety of your devices, if you can't update it, it's time to put it out to pasture. And definitely you need to do all the erase everything. But updating is really important. I'll just give you a real world example of the importance of that. In Dusseldorf in September, a woman died. The reason why she died was the university hospital she was on the way to, their ER, was shut down because of ransomware. Now you're thinking, how does a hospital succumb to ransomware? Very easily. It was identified in a piece of software, remote software, that there was a flaw in December 2019. The company did a patch in January. The patch was never applied, which left hackers, knowing this, the opportunity to get in and send a ransomware, which took 30 plus servers offline, which meant the emergency department couldn't accept patients. I don't think anything that we do would cause such an extreme situation, but it's very much essential that we keep things updated. We make sure that we use a VPN. Our passwords are secure. And when we're talking about all the devices at home that we have connected, and I'm assuming most of us do work in a home environment, or even if you work in a co-working space or rent, a small office somewhere, you still have to think about these things. Your modem, router, printer, all of those things have default passwords. I could go online right now and look up whatever modem we have that we're using and get the password. Simple Google search. So one of the things you need to do is make sure that when you get devices such as that, is change the default passwords. And that's for your security system as well. Your copy machine. I mean, everything is connected these days. The Internet of Things. I mean, who would have thought that your oven could be connected to the internet and your refrigerator? I would have never thought that. And frankly, I'm not too thrilled about it either. That's the worst. I mean, can you imagine someone burning your brownies on purpose? I mean, that's just wrong. But I don't think hackers would do that because, it's brownies. They may ruin your Thanksgiving though, if they have the access. So, I mean, they're just this whole host of this web of risks and concerns. But hopefully I've given you some solutions that you can do right now to lock down your information and make it difficult for the bad guys to get your information and pretty much either ruin your business or just make your life a whole lot more harder than it is now. And I could probably do a whole day on cybersecurity, but I am going to let everyone, if they want to, ask me questions. I think, oh, good. So we have a few minutes for questions. So please, do you need to know what types of ransomware are out there? There's so many things, questions that can be asked. Are there any that are coming to mind?
Are cyber criminals getting more tricky with the way in which they phrase emails now, embedding links within emails, things like that, so that it's getting a little bit less obvious when you're clicking on links within emails and getting within your system?
They are becoming extremely sophisticated. We are seeing them actually mimicking your style of writing, or particularly how you sign your emails. Cheers, stay well, best regards, things that would kind of seem that they're personal, that only you would do. So the people feel more comfortable clicking on those links. And they're also getting very sophisticated with emails. So if you're very, if they're asking you something that seems a lot, and a lot of us, we're on these a lot. And when you're taking emails and reading off this, it's really hard to see who really is sending the email. So you just click on the send to, and that'll give you the full address. And oftentimes the full address is so incorrect that it's not that person. I recently got something from a person I know from networking, and it was like, hey, can you do me a huge favor? And it's like, yeah, okay. And I looked at the email, it wasn't sent by her. They were hoping for me to either give them information or do what they were asking, which was, buy something. So yeah, the attacks are getting very, very sophisticated. And I think that's the entry of organized crime, hacker gangs that are really taking it up a level. I mean, there are whole marketplaces. I mean, we all right now could go online and purchase a ransomware attack, and you just go through it like you're buying something from Amazon kind of thing. And it'll help you set up where the cryptocurrency will go and how long and what. I mean, it's all become very, very sophisticated. It's huge business. I mean, for example, a full health profile, your health records. Per record, it's over $400 because it has such valuable information. Now your social security number now is like worth $1, but still, if they get it in enough volumes, it makes sense. And most of the phishing actually is I'm using a PR term now, which we used to need for media relations, to spray and pray. So what they're doing is they're just blanketing, and they're hoping that a small percentage of people will actually bite, and then that makes it worthwhile for them.
There are some directory listings that some micro businesses might want to be listed in. Is there a way to see if that directory listing is reputable, or if it's a scam, perhaps, or if it's phishing for information? Is there something that they should be wary of?
You know, that's a really good question, and I wish that I had a really good answer for it. I think if it has, SSL website address, yeah, do a Google search for, is this real kind of thing? And I guess your gut check. I mean, if it sounds too good to be true, then it usually is. But yeah, I would definitely, I mean, I always research things before I give my information out. See if they're legit.
And you had mentioned that one of the biggest threats to cybersecurity right now is the human threat.
Mhm.
And are there different tips that you would say for business owners to be aware of when they're looking at different employees as a threat to their organization?
Well, I mean, the insider threat is the one that most companies do not prepare for, because it's easier to use software that protects and surveys and automates. That's the word, automate. The process. And I firmly believe in people over platforms, because your people are the first level of defense. I mean, look, if hackers really want your information, they're going to get it. But that's very targeted. I mean, you have something specific they want, and they're going to work towards it. So if you are in DoD, like a third-party vendor, or you work with healthcare or financial services, or you have higher profile clients, if you're a coach, your data is more valuable. They'll specifically target you. So we're talking a different level of hacker and of sophistication. But your run-of-the-mill hacker is just quick, get in, get out. But within the insider threat, who's the best person to go under the radar? And that's somebody you know. And there are two types. You have the incidental hacker, which is, the guy who presses on the link that they shouldn't have, and boom, they're caught. Or the malicious hacker, or the malicious insider that wants specific information. So that could be a disgruntled employee. And with COVID-19 right now, we all have to be vigilant, particularly with staff and vendors, with layoffs and people being sick, and just all of these things. They could lead good staff down a road to do something they normally wouldn't do. So there's some things that you can do, which is having the passwords be hard and change. You should have your staff change their password at least once a quarter. I would say once a month now, given the amount of attacks. I mean, the fact there was over a 250 increase in ransom attacks, and most come through email, says that you really just need to keep vigilant in terms of the passwords. Then also there's the concept of least privilege, which means, and I know as business owners, we have access to all of our files, but if you have an accountant or someone who does sales for you, they should have everything in compartments. They shouldn't have access to, say, your accounting software. They should only have access to your CRM. So it's good not to give everyone all the privilege and the access to go ahead and be able to download programs and this and that on work computers. Now, for those who are working remote, you really have to have policies in place so people know this is what's expected of them. If they're bringing their own device, this is what we expect of you. You know, you need a VPN, you need, your software needs to be updated, those simple things. But it's basically awareness. I mean, we teach good hygiene in order to prevent the coronavirus and the flu. We also need to talk about the cyber hygiene, which is how do we keep ourselves protected from cyber threats? And those are some of the things that that I've just shared is, you know, the passwords and doing the basic minimum can often save your organization and yourself, frankly, from some hardships.
Thank you. Michael, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Has there anything that popped to mind? Can I ask what business you're in?
I'm a video producer.
Okay, so you have some assets that need to be protected, and you have large files. I'm assuming do you have your own servers or are you in the cloud at this point?
No, everything's local.
Okay. Now, do you do backups
Yes.
off-site?
No, just on local hard drives.
Okay. Because that would be, I mean, you're actually prime for ransomware. Because what the ransomware does is that encrypts your data and you can't gain access to it until you pay the ransom, which is typically in cryptocurrency.
Right.
And since they are just so customer friendly, and I'm not joking, they do have customer service to help you through the process.
How may we help you steal today?
Yes, pretty much. How can we help you? How can we make this process as easy as possible to get your money? And I mean, most of the hackers will release the data back to you once you've paid your ransom. But one of the best defenses against ransomware is having regular backups of your documents in multiple places. So, you know, particularly in your case, with the files that you're working with, you probably should back it up once a day, minimum, to ensure that if something happens, then you have access to your data and your systems.
Right.
You can just bring it back online quickly instead of having to pay the ransomware.
Good point.
Yeah, so there's, you know, definitely, and I don't know if you do anything with clients sharing photos and videos. You make sure that's password protected, two-factor authorization. And that should be for, I mean, in general, that should be for everyone's systems,
Right.
social media, your email, all of that should have two-factor
authorization. Yeah.
clicked on. Yes, it is a pain in the rear, but again, you got to make it harder. They want easy money. They want to be fast. If you make it harder on them, they're going to move on to somebody else. So two-factor is the way to go, minimum. But yeah, always keep your data backed up.
Good
So
point.
if you do get a ransomware, you can, you know, use the bird to let them know you're not paying them.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for your great feedback. This has been a great session. And if you have any other questions for Anne Marie, please contact her at Mind the Gap Cyber. And you can reach her at her email address at ann@mindthegap.com. And her website is www.mindthegapcyber.com. You can also find us at the Micro Business Association of New England on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as well under Kimberly Madden. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at kimberly_madden@hotmail.com. Thank you everyone for your time and questions for today. And this will be available on our website on mainonline.co. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.